Today we're going to be talking about how to break in a brand new pair of pointe shoes. Now, pointe shoes, as many of you probably know, are a ballerina's secret weapon. Why are we going to be learning about this? Well, ballet is actually a very good art form for figure skaters to practice. It helps with having beautiful long arms, long and lean leg muscles, and it just very much complements your figure skating. So maybe some of you who are more advanced in figure skating have already tried standing on pointe before and maybe doing a couple of dances or combinations on pointe. And I'm sure that many of you have found that when you get a new pair of pointe shoes, they can be very hard and it takes some time for them to soften and break in. So today we're going to learn some tips and tricks on how to break in the new pointe shoes that you get. Okay, so there are several different pointe shoe manufacturers, and depending on what pointe shoe brand you use, there are different ways to break them in. So I'm going to introduce 3 different types of pointe shoe brands that I have used before, and then we'll get into how to break in each specific pointe shoe of that brand. So first of all, we have our class right here. So they are, as you can see, they're right here. And this is the Brise model. Next we have Grishko right here. So they are a little bit more of a golden or yellow color than the Art Class pointe shoes. And lastly, I'm going to show you the Gainer Minden pointe shoes, which are also a little bit more brighter than the R Class pointe shoes, and Gainer Minden is actually the preferred brand that I typically use. So first of all, I want to start off by saying that depending on how big your arches are or how strong your feet are, there are different levels of hardness to each of the pointe shoe shanks. And our class and Grishko in general, they happen to have harder shanks, so you actually have to break them in more than the Gainer Minden pointe shoes. Gainer Minden pointe shoes are made of plastic, so they're kind of like, you know, you do a couple of releves and then you can go and actually dance in them. But these shoes you actually definitely have to do more breaking in with before you can actually go and dance. So what you would do with the R Class or the Grishko pointe shoes is, first of all, let me start by saying that each person has their own method for breaking in the shoes. It's kind of a trial and error sort of thing, but I prefer to use a hammer, which is what a lot of other dancers use as well. So what you would do is you would actually like tap like this along the sides of the box right here just to soften it. I've seen dancers like just soften it with their hands like this, trying to break them in, but for me personally, the hammer is more of an effective method, and then I can go on and do this on my own. They would break in this part of the shoe as well, and so this goes for our class shoes, Grishko shoes, and basically any shoes besides the Gainer Minden pointe shoes that have a plastic shank, because non-plastic shanks tend to be a lot harder. Now, these Gainer Minden shoes are a completely different story. You do not use a hammer with them because, again, they're made of plastic. These sides, the areas around the box, are already soft, so it was fine if you just take the shoe and you just bend it. Don't be afraid to bend it this way, bend it that way. That is an effective method for breaking in the Gainer Minden pointe shoes. And again, it's all about also finding the right type of shank for you. It ranges from softer shanks to harder shanks, and in Gainer Minden these come in different colors. So you need to check with your the fitting employee at the store for figuring out what shoes will work for you. Next up, we're going to get into actually prepping the shoes. So we're going to need a needle, some thread, which is in my bag right here, and some elastics and ribbons to sew onto the shoes. And I will be using my Gainer Minden pointe shoes to show you. So let's get into that. So for my pointe shoes, what I would do is I would take the pointe shoe, and you see how it has these two little seams lines right here. I would sew it closer to the bottom area of the shoe. I would sew onto the inside of the shoe in a square shape around the ribbon. I would sew one ribbon to one side, and then I would sew one ribbon to another, like this. Then I would take my elastics, I would measure them on my foot to see how long they need to be. And I would do the same thing. I would sew around this part of the shoe, so around the heel, and there's also two lines right here, and I would sew around that part of the shoe, just to hold, once again, the foot in place. And again, it depends on the dancer, because some dancers will add more to the shoe, sewing different parts of the shoe, others will sew less. I also like to actually, this is a new method that I have started doing recently, but I like to cut the shoe at the tip right here, so in a V shape. That allows me to actually stand over the shoe more. And then I just sew little threads going back and forth across the shoe. And that's just to keep my foot in place. So another thing that I want to discuss about prepping pointe shoes is this very top part of the pointe shoe. And so my gainer mitten pointe shoes, what they have is they have a suede tip, which is actually this like sort of lining across this box, the top of the shoe, and that actually makes the shoe a little bit less slippery, the floor a little bit less slippery when I'm dancing on pointe. Some shoes don't have that, but nowadays you actually have the option to order either with suede tip or without, depending on what you're more comfortable with. But many dancers, for instance, these R-class shoes, they don't have a suede tip, so they're just this fabric everywhere, which can actually be a little bit more slippery. What you would do is you can just cut out all along this area, and that'll make it a little bit less slippery. Or what you could do is, they also sell separate suede tips, so a lot of dancers, they will cut out this area. They will take jet glue and they will take those the suede tips that they buy, and they will actually just glue it themselves across this top part of the shoe. Now that we have the pointe shoes prepped, we're actually ready to try them on. And you can take a look at my other video on the Victory Skating YouTube account on beginner pointe shoe exercises. We have a couple of exercises there called releves, and the very beginning exercises at the bar where we go through plie and we do slow releves in parallel, then we go in first position, and then we just do faster releves. Those are some great pointe shoe exercises for warming up and breaking in the shoes. All right, everyone, so that's just a little bit about how to break in pointe shoes or prep pointe shoes for some of you that are a little bit more advanced and on point or starting point. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to sign up for classes with me at victoryskating.com. I teach ballet, choreography, and flexibility classes. See you in class.